especially for those who have just joined the Gombak campus. Welcome to IIM Gombak campus. And for the returning students, welcome back to IIM Gombak campus, inshallah. So this is MECH 1301, Engineering Mechanics Statics, and I'm the lecturer for this section, Muhammad Saifuddin. So a little bit about myself. Normally this slide is designed for the first class because normally some of the students are still finding the venue, etc. So there are some slides just to take some time at the beginning. So it's basically just some background of myself. My name is Muhammad Saifuddin bin Muhammad Rehan. I'm a lecturer for Kuliah of Engineering, Department of Mechanical. Currently it is Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering, if I'm not mistaken. I was born in Leeds, UK. For those who follow English Premier League, unfortunately Leeds is no longer in the Premier League. I've been relegated, so I have no longer any team to support. My wife was born in Oklahoma, US, so coincidentally both of us were born overseas. I spent most of my early years in Shah Alam. Anyone from Shah Alam? Any Shah Alam? No, semua orang tak ada orang Shah Alam. Alright, so this is just my school pictures, and after I finished my SPM, I wanted to see my birthplace, so I went to Intech doing A level to go to UK. But back then in the year 98, I'm not sure, are you aware what happened in 98? Ada belajar sejarah? Tak masuk syllabus lagi kot. 98. There was a great economic crisis that hits this part of the world, and suddenly we have a change of plan lah from our sponsor JPA. One change is that because there's no money, our scholarship changed into pinjaman, loan, so we have to pay back. And second, they say sorry lah, tak payah pergi overseas, pergi local saja. So I did my mechanical engineering degree in Uni 10. Back then it was just opened, and then I teach as a tutor for one semester, I think, in UPM. For those who just join IIM, either from direct intake or any direct intake student, or all of you from CFS? Any direct intake one? The rest are from CFS. Alright. Is IIM your first choice, or is it this one? Test. Is it from here? Okay, this is the first time I have been given this classroom or this lecture theatre, so I'm not sure yet what's going on with all the system. Hopefully next class we can figure out something. Anyway, and this lecture theatre is not exactly suitable that much for this subject actually, because I cannot really help that much if you need help in doing the calculation, etc., right? Because normally we have all the tables, individual tables, or at least in a row that I can come close. So we'll see how to figure this out. Anyway, when I teach in UPM, in the engineering school there, it is quite interesting because the demography of the students was like almost 50% Malay, almost 50% Chinese, and there's 2-3 Indian. And somehow when I come to class, the Malay sit on one side and Chinese sit on one side and the Indian sit at the back. And what is interesting is every single time at the end of the class when I say any question, so all the Chinese raise their hand, all the Malay kemas bag, packing their bags, and the Indian, I don't know what they're doing at the back. And then when I afterwards there's several things why I actually shift from UPM to IIUM. One of the thing is when UPM wanted me to go straight to PhD after my degree. They say, oh, 3 point apa-apa lah kan, 3 point, I don't remember what did I get, 3.6 kot. Dia kata, boleh buat PhD terus ni. So I got scared and I come to IIM lah. They said, no, you just do master first and do PhD. Then when I shift here, every time I ask any question, semua kemas bag lah, tak ada orang kat tangan. So it's easier to teach. And I did my master in UTM Skudai. I did my PhD in France. This is where I did my PhD, ISAT, Institut Supérieur de l'Automobile et des Transports. It's actually an old big factory building, but inside there's a lot of vehicle, etc. being tested. Okay, so 2 of my daughters were born in France. Anyway, since 2013 until now, I have been teaching in this kuliah lah. Right. So that's a little bit about myself. Hopefully most of you have already reached the class. Now, going to the subject. So we'll take a look at the course outline first. Oh wait, it's here. Will still come up here. Let me bring it down. Mana dia? Okay, some information about the course outline. Statics, MCH 1301. Okay, nampak ke tak ni? Okay. Oops. Some of the things. Okay, the outcomes, the course learning outcomes. So whenever you look at, especially for new students, whenever you look at any course outline of any course that you take, there will be stated what is the outcome, and what will be examined is or should be directly related to what is stated there. So for example, identify forces and moments and draw for a body diagram to solve problems in statics for both internal and external load. So the question and the marks that will be given is on your ability to identify force and moment. So for example, if you correctly identify everything and also draw the free body diagram. So you'll notice this later on. If the drawing is missing, even though your calculation is correct, you still lose a lot of mark because the outcome is you should be able to draw, and we want to see the drawing itself. So even if the final answer is correct but the drawing is missing, you still lose half of the mark at least, right? So that's how you should understand what is written there. Analyze simple structure, frames and machines. So those are some of the types of structure that we will be learning in this course, and you will be evaluating on that. And then compute centroid, center of mass, moment of inertia. Alright. Okay, we will go through some of this in the slides in terms of the percentage from your assessment. Now, if you go to any of your course outline for other subject as well, you will also have this kind of table, student learning time. And on the bottom there's total student learning time. All the numbers is in terms of hours. So if you see, for example, you have, okay, this course have how many? This is 3 credit hour, right? So in terms of the class time, you have 3 hours per week, and you have, generally speaking, 14 weeks. So you have 3 times 14. That's the student learning time in class. So that will be on top there, right? So in the table here, it's kind of already split into lecture and classwork. So the 42, which is from 28 plus 14, is that representing that 3 hours per week. But you also are expected to solve or learn and do exercises, etc. Reading and revision there, another 53 hours outside of class. So normally that's the kind of ratio, and in the end it total up as 120, including the test, etc. So when you see this, do not be surprised if you only spend time on the class, and outside of the class there's not much time that you spend to revise, etc. That it is still hard to get a good grade, because it is expected that you spend that much time to actually figure out solving problems, etc. outside of class, right? So that's the expectation. Right. Now, where's my mouse? Okay. In terms of the assessment, we have quiz, we have midterm, and we have final exam, of course. And the percentage distribution is as such. You have 50% for the final exam, you have midterm 30%, and you have quizzes 20%. Now, for this semester we have 3 sections, including this one. For final exam and midterm, it is centralized, meaning that you will take together with all the other sections. But quizzes is done separately in the classroom. So meaning that if we have different lecturers, sometimes the quizzes can be different between the lecturer. But the midterm and the final exam will be standardized, and the grading will be also meaning it's not me that grade your paper, meaning for every paper from every section, for example question 1, I will make the question and grade for every section, and for question 2 another lecturer, etc. Right? So we want to make sure that the level of marking is consistent for every student from every section. But for that 20%, it is very much what the lecturer do in each section, because each lecturer may have different philosophy about doing quizzes. And for me, I will explain that in a short while. Now, as a policy, this is a policy I think from, is it from EAC or is it from, because I think it's from the engineering body that govern the certification of your degree here. So there's this requirement that if the student is to be given a passing grade, meaning passing is A, B, C, right? A, B, C, because D and E and F you have to repeat basically the subject, right? For any student to be given a pass, they should actually pass the final exam. Meaning that even if your carry mark is full mark, and by that you should already secure half of the grade, half of the marks, and you should pass, right? But if you fail your final exam, then you still fail the course. So that's the implication. So make sure you understand that. And this is just to show what happened in the previous exam. Now, hopefully you can see the green, red, and blue. So the green and red is actually the final exam marks, and the blue is the carry mark. And the total is how it reaches there, right? So there are some students that reach almost 90% total marks, and there are some that is very low over here. What I want to highlight is cases like this. right? Where if you actually total up, it is actually passing mark above 50. But because the final exam is a fail, then the student fail. So do not fall into this kind of category. There are several students that this happened. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, right? On the other side, it's rarely happen, but I think this student, it happened to this student where the academic mark is quite low and suddenly somehow the final exam is quite high, but the total mark is not enough to pass, so unfortunately as well. So hopefully you secure the most marks from your academic mark, but also at least pass the final exam. So keep that in mind and make sure if you need to consult or to discuss on any chapter, please do so. Now, in terms of the midterm, I think since last 2 semesters, we have split this into midterm 1 and midterm 2. Before that, there's only one midterm at the middle, but then I think the lecturer discussed and wished that for 2 reasons. One is when we split, midterm 1 should be quite easy because it only covers the very early chapters, and many of the early chapters you have learned before already, right? Most of the things. So that's the implication. You should aim to really score the midterm 1. However, we noticed that because when we split, midterm 2 actually will be covering to the later part. So midterm 2 is significantly difficult than the original 1 midterm. So it may even out, but from preparation standpoint, I think for each midterm it covers less number of chapter because it's just this chapter 1 to 3, for example. This is 4 and 5. So it should be enable you to focus more, hopefully. But the breakdown is as such: 15% for the 30%, 15% from midterm 1 and 15% from midterm 2. Now that's the one thing. Second is I think what we decided is to have the midterm much earlier, so that in any case that any student feel that they cannot carry, meaning and normally students wait until they have the mark of the midterm before they decide if they want to drop, in case any student need to drop. We think that it is easier for the student if they have the midterm, the first midterm earlier, and hence then they can decide much earlier. Because I think if you see the structure for those who want to drop and withdraw, at a certain point you have to pay, and for every week the payment becomes higher and higher and higher. Right, so hopefully it helps. We do not want you to drop, but some students, for whatever reason, they notice that they cannot carry too much load or whatever, so they might want to decide one of the subject to drop. So we want to facilitate that decision making lah. So that you know, oh okay, this is my midterm marks. What do I think? Can I actually have a good mark grade or whatever that is your situation? Right. Now, have you heard of this before? Flipped classroom. How many of you have heard of this? Tak pernah dengar? But I think the two words you know, right? Classroom is a classroom. Flip is basically you just flip it, right? So flip classroom is basically we flip the flow of learning. Now, in a traditional classroom, what happened or what should happen is that you come to class, you'll cover the lecture, and then afterward you do the revision, you do the homework, you do the exercises, right? For flipped classroom, basically it flipped the flow. So you should cover the lecture before coming to class, and coming to class you do the exercises, etc. And then when you have question, you have the lecturer there to explain. So that's the general idea of flipped classroom. Anyone do not follow? Semua faham? You get the idea, right? So one fundamental changes is that in a traditional classroom, it is centered to the teacher, because when you come, the teacher is the center that will teach everything. However, in a flipped classroom, it will depend on you, because each of you will be doing different exercises. Maybe you have different questions, etc. So the teacher or the facilitator will facilitate based on your question. So the student might find different thing difficult, might have different questions. So the lecturer just address what is the actual problem. But it does require you to actually cover the lecture beforehand. Otherwise, you will come totally blank, right? So before, you have to prepare covering the lecture, and then during the class is where you put into practice whether you understand or not the material, and actually practice on real question. And then afterward, of course, revision is always part of the cycle. Any questions so far? Now, why did I mention about flipped classroom? Because ever since, I don't know how many years back, in my class, that is the mode that I implement, where it is done in a flipped classroom approach. Okay. So, yeah, that's why I introduced that one. Now, okay, so I will have, okay, I will make some survey after this. Okay, prior to this, I always want to know what you think is best for you in terms of the class activity, because I think the general idea is understood just now, right? Meaning that you cover the lecture itself before coming to class. Coming to class is where you do the exercises, you try the problem, etc. But there will be different mode where that is possible. Whether I give a fresh question and then you try and see if there's any problem, that's one possibility. Second, you cover the already available material online, and then if any question, ask question. Or third, you prefer to do study group and then have questions, etc. Right? So those are different possibilities. Now, some of the material that we have is online. So, but to enable this, if you have your gadget right now, do you have the Wi-Fi access here in this particular class? Yes. So tak ada masalah. Kau ada yang tak? Especially those who don't have mobile data yang sufficient lah. Just semua device ada dapat ke? Sebab I'm not sure about this class. Normally I teach in the different building. Normally the Wi-Fi is quite strong, but I'm not sure this I think this hall, the situation is quite outside of the building. Tapi dapat ke? Ke tak dapat langsung? Ni tak dapat. Ada? Oh, tak dapat. But for those who do not, because here I have like 1 bar, 2 bar over here. I'm not sure pancar dia kat mana. Where is the transmitter? Okay. Okay, kalau you tak ada Wi-Fi, tak possible lah nak jawab survey online ni. Ya, berapa? Okay, just let me see. Nak tengok if some of you say ada, tak ada. But for this one, regardless if you have your mobile data, you boleh buat juga. Now, where's my... mana pergi? Okay, so this is just to get an idea of your preference. So you can go to menti.com, use the code as you see up there. Hopefully you can see 3683 1683, and then just answer which of the three, if given up to you, which of the option that you think is best as the in-class activity for you personally lah, between the three options. Boleh ke? Menti.com, code as you can see above there, 36831683. Okay, so from 8 responses so far, the majority is as such. So baru seorang yang prefer group discussion. Okay. Tapi kalau seorang tu nak group, tak ada orang lain nak group dengan dia, tak dapat juga lah. Okay, interesting. So more than half prefer solving sample question, while basically 1/3 watch video tutorial. Alright, so keep on posting that. Now normally it depends on the class structure as well, because I personally do accept that the learning mode for different people can be different, right? The optimum learning mode, right? So if okay, 2/3 is like that, right? Now in that case, starting next class onwards, because we do have the whiteboard here, and also the slide here, of course. For those who prefer like the 19, that prefer solving sample problems and etc., and maybe you want to have some straight away how to say example up front, it is suggested that you sit up front and near to that. For those who prefer to watch tutorial and then ask whenever you have, then you are free to sit mana-mana yang sesuai lah. And of course you can, when the time comes that you need to ask question, you can just raise your hand and I can come there as well. That's one thing, my suggestion. Secondly, I think from next class onwards, I think especially for brothers, the way you sit is make one, it's like ada gap antara, so that for example if the student there need to ask question, I can go in between, because currently I cannot go to the middle, right? So in case you need help, for me to refer directly to your solution, right? Alright, so hopefully we can proceed as such. Now, where's my mouse again? Now, in terms of the resources that should already be accessible to you, how many of you have already entered the Google Classroom? Alright, have you browsed around what's in there? Alright, so there are several things. One is the lecture videos and tutorial videos, right? So if you understand the flipped classroom approach, you have to cover the lecture first, and that's where all the lecture video comes in, right? So the lecture video is already there, so to cover the concept, some example is already there. So it is expected that before coming to class, you already have covered the lecture video for that particular class, and you should already know how what we will be covering, because I think one of the thing is a semester class schedule. I think you can, how many of you have seen that class schedule? Because there's already the date for each Monday and Wednesday, and also what exact video that is the lecture for that particular class, right? So you just click on that link, it should bring you to the lecture video that you should cover before coming to class. For the most class, you have one video, but for some of the class, you have 2 videos that you have to cover, right? And the video is not the same length, so you should take a look at that, right? So so that's one. Okay, comment about the lecture from the past student, that's optional if you want to see. Okay, normally I give that at the very beginning to be fair to the students before they are stuck with me for the rest of the semester lah. So if you want to know what the past student have commented about me, it's all in there. So if you think, alamak, baik tukar section, you still have this week to do so lah, right? So that's just to be fair to you. Now, all the slides you have there, lecture slides for each chapter, meaning each of the lecture video is based on this slide. So if you want to see side by side, you boleh lah, maksudnya, because in the lecture video it's just me talking and etc, but the slide is there, right? So yeah, course outline is the same course outline as before. Okay, ni dah sebut tadi, semester class schedule, and from the semester class schedule also you already, I think for this semester, for this section, we will have like three holiday, I think. 3 ke 2 and I think New Year 1, is it Deepavali or something, and Sultan Selangor or something, right? All the 3 happen to fall on Monday, so we will lose 3 class, but all the what we will cover is already in the schedule there. We just follow that one, inshallah. Okay, if you go to the resources or the slides, there are slides for lecture. So this is exactly what we'll be covering in the lecture video itself. There are also tutorial PowerPoint slides. This is basically the slide just show the question actually that the tutorial video solve. Okay, now what is compulsory, if I want to use that word, for you to cover before coming to class is the lecture video. If you are proactive student, you want to cover also the tutorial video, that's good. So that meaning that even before coming to class, you already have seen how solving a problem. Okay, the difference between lecture and tutorial. Lecture video will cover example given in the slide itself. The slide is from the textbook. So in each chapter there will be a few examples to illustrate how to solve problem for the chapter. Normally it's easy example lah, so that you understand the basic application of the equation. But if you want to have an idea of in the exam what kind of question, normally it's in the tutorial, because in the tutorial and in the tutorial video I cover past exam questions, exact question from past exam, right? So if you want to see, normally we cover the lecture first because that's to facilitate our learning process. Oh, that's the concept, this is how we apply. But then you should also cover, or it's helpful if you cover the tutorial, because that's exact question from past exam. If you can solve that one, inshallah it's good for you for your future exam, inshallah, right? But some students from my past experience, they cover this video in class. Ni sampai yang suka tengok video masa kelas lah. So they just follow, meaning they solve by themselves and the video is on the side just to refer. So if you prefer that one, you can do that one as well. Kalau tengok video tu susah, then I'm in front, you can ask question during the class as well, right? Okay, so those are the resources. Now all the final the last semester I haven't updated yet, but all the semester and semester before, you can already see all the question there, right? So the resources is already available. Kalau you nak tengok exam ni soalan dia bisa keluar macam mana, you can already see there, right? The final exam and also the midterm. But I think most of the midterm there is the midterm when it is only one midterm because we only recently changed into 2 midterm. Alright. Dia nak suruh berhenti ke? Now, in the old days, or how many years before, I normally record every class that I teach, so that if anyone miss the class, they can refer to the video. But since when I did the flip classroom ni, I think it's become more irrelevant lah, because sometimes ada kelas yang tak ada banyak soalan pun, so dia jadi macam tengok saya berjalan-jalan macam tu je kan. But I only normally put the first class lah, the first session, the briefing session yang ni, because I think whoever missed the briefing should be able to cover what is explained here in terms of flip classroom, in terms of mark distribution, etc., etc., right? So that's why lah. Now, if you look into the playlist, okay, in the list, there's one playlist that you can go to all the lecture, tutorial, and additional video. So there are 3 types of video that you will find in this whole playlist. One is, if you see statics chapter 2 here, there's 2 video there, number 3 and 4. That's a lecture video. This is an example of tutorial video, right? Of course it's short because I think earlier chapter jarang masuk exam, so soalan dia tak banyak. But later on you'll see the video will be much longer for the tutorial. So that's 2, and there's also additional video that I make after observing problems that students have. For example, the first 2 I do advise, especially the first one, because I noticed that many students have problem with trigonometry, sine, cosine, whatever. And in statics here, we assume you already master that. We don't teach it. We straight away apply. Oh, solving problem, apply. Suddenly there's sine, there's angle, etc. you need. Especially in 3D. In 3D, you have to see how to find sine, cosine, tangent, etc., right? So, for those who already have forgotten or rusty on that, please do cover that one before next class, because in the class we straight away apply. We don't teach what you have learned before, right? And later on, there will be some chapter where you will do a lot of integration. So that's the video, the purpose of that video is for that, to refresh. But that will be in chapter 9 and 10. So if you do not want to refresh yet, it's okay. But before approaching that, you should refresh that, because in the chapter we will not teach you integration anymore. You know, right? So, but for most students, apparently they have, meaning normally after exam, dia buat apa? They delete all file, empty recycle bin, dan dia lupa terus kan. So bila masuk universiti, usah ada balik lagi cacing-cacing kan. So we expect you already have mastered that, right? So please do refresh if you need. Alright. And apa lagi? And okay, if you scroll down, there are also videos of even tutorial to solve past midterm and final exam is also there, etc., right? So please just browse through to know what resources is available whenever you need it. Okay, ni dah sebut tadi. Okay, ni pun tak ni. Alright, in terms of quiz, as I mentioned, quiz is based on section and lecturer. So this is how I normally do quiz in statics. Saya seorang ke terganggu dengan benda tu. Anyway, Allah. Okay, number 1, quiz is not compulsory. So kalau you tak nak ambil pun tak apa. Maknanya kata saya tak ada mood hari ni. Just that you tak ada markah lah. Saya takkan paksa you ambil. Yeah, it's not compulsory, but basically if you don't take any quiz, you don't have any marks lah. Now, there's no makeup quiz, meaning that if we do quiz at a certain time during the class and you miss that portion, even with MC, etc., there's no makeup quiz. Fine, we will not replace that quiz. Late submission, the general rule of thumb is okay, because the quiz will be given for a specific time. For example, we do quiz from now 8:46 until 9:06, for example, right? So if you time is up and then you're running down to pass it over. So previously there's two possible ways that how that is dealt with. One is it's not accepted. Second is a huge deduction of mark. But normally what tend to happen, I think based on my previous experience, is that the student that submit late, the next class dia dah tak ingat dah dia submit late. Dia kata mana ada saya submit on time je kan. So malah dia jadi gaduh tak pasal benda tu So please do submit on time, before time because normally we have the countdown before the end of submission. So just submit on time to avoid any unnecessary loss of marks. Now, this is the standard that I have done for many years. I will take your best 8 quiz for your 20%. Okay, meaning that from the many quiz that we'll do, the 8 best marks will be counted for your 20%. So best case scenario ialah if you have full mark for 8 quizzes, then you are set. You already have that 20%. The next question is how many quiz that you want. Because the maximum that you can do is for every session lah. So that will become, kalau maximum that is possible from 14 weeks, dia jadi 28 quiz. Ataupun minus the first class jadi 27 I think last sebelum ni, I think the most that we have done, I think 24 quiz. So this is just to get an idea of your preference kalau diberi pilihan. So you can, mana, what's the mouse? Mana saya beli mouse ni? Oh. So quiz. How many quiz? Okay. So just to have an idea for your. Okay. Menti.com, that code above there, 8151 8159. So kalau diberi pilihan, you nak buat berapa? Of course the minimum is 8 lah, because that's how many quiz that will be counted for your marks. Of course the implication kalau banyak quiz ni ialah you lagi banyak chance untuk cuba dapatkan markah yang terbaik tu lah kan. But some student dia tension bila banyak-banyak quiz ni, walaupun tak compulsory so I just want to have an idea of, kalau ikut hati you nak sepanjang sem dalam 14 minggu tu, you prefer how much? Nampak tak Okey, adakah yang jawab 8 Tak ada tu berapa tu Ada yang jawab roughly setengah Tak nampak nombor apa. Alright. Okay, keep on giving your answer. 24 tu dalam 12 kalau kat sana tu 10 to 12. Alright, so the average is around 17 Alright, ada yang ada few yang nak yang maximum, ada yang tengah-tengah dan sebagainya. Alright. Okay, in term of how to say, normally what I did last time and before that untuk meraihkan semua respon yang berbagai-bagai ni, the quiz given normally follows the maximum, But siapa yang rasa dia memang tak nak ambil banyak-banyak tu, as I mentioned before, in any particular class, kalau memang you rasa macam waktu quiz tu better you masih solving problem, you belajar, you spend untuk ask question yet apa, sebab you masih nak master the subject. Sebab the quiz is within class time. So you are free to do so lah kot. But for those who want to take the quiz, then the quiz is there. Now, I hope you can actually switch your mindset to not be pressured by others. Is it possible for you? Because every time when I say, okay, quiz ni tak compulsory. Kalau you rasa tak ready dan you rasa kalau ambil quiz ni stress, tak payah ambil lah, sebab you ada, saya dah readykan 20 lebih. Maknanya you still have enough chance to get that 8 good marks. Kalau you tak ambil hari ni pun contohnya. Tapi biasanya bila dia tengok orang lain, dia tension. Orang lain ambil, aku tak ambil. So I hope you can get out of that mindset lah. So do what's good for you. Kalau you stress, jangan tambah stress tu, because insyaAllah you still have enough chance. So if you can do that, hopefully it is helpful for you lah. Jangan terkesan dengan orang lain yang, sebab think what is best for you. Alright, in terms of the quiz time. Oops. Now, the suggestion is, okay. What I normally do is like this. For example, in the next class, what we'll have is, okay, let me see. Benda pula ni. Okay, this is section 1. Okay. So, now, so in the class schedule, so before next class, you know already what we'll be covering. So there's 2 videos that you need to cover. So number 1 is this is like 23 minutes for 2.1 and 2.3. And then the next one is the following after that, 2.4 and 2.5. This is 50 minutes. Right, so dalam sejam suku of material. Right. Now, what that means is those are the lecture video that you have to schedule for your own time before coming to class when you want to cover that, so that you have the concept before coming. And during the class, up to you, whichever mode that you want to do, right? You want to cover the tutorial video that is corresponding to that. You have direct question, etc. You want me to illustrate something. And you have normally, because our class is like almost 2 hours, right? 1 hour and 50, right? I think the schedule. So normally we allocate the last 30 minutes for quiz. So you have actually 1.5 hour or 1 hour and 20 to prepare for that quiz. Faham? Maksudnya you have covered the lecture, come into class, you have 1 hour and 20 to try examples, to ask any question yang tak selesai, tak faham ke benda, you boleh tanya. To prepare for the final 30 minutes tu, the quiz tu, is to actually get the good marks for that particular portion lah. And that's how the cycle goes. So the pushing factor is that memang throughout the class you memang nak bagi faham supaya boleh solve quiz kat ujung tu, right? So is it so the question is, if we set the quiz at so it become 9:20, right? 9:20. Is there any objection if the quiz time is set to 9:20. Mana saya punya mouse ni? Every class maknanya for every session you know already. Kalau you kalau you terdatang lambat pun you tahu 9:20 tu lah waktu quiz there. We set it as standard there. So any objection? No. Alright. So the next quiz will be the next class lah. And that should be the easiest quiz throughout the semester, because that's the chapter 2 is basically most of what you have learned before. So hopefully you get at least full mark there. Alright. Now, ni nak tanya verbal ke nak? Now, for repeaters, because okay, not sure whether to share the statistics. Okay. For whatever reason, this subject, statistics, have quite an interesting failure rate every single semester. I'm not just talking about my section, I'm talking about throughout all the sections. The rate is about 40%. You rasa tinggi ke rendah? Tinggi. Maknanya almost half akan jumpa balik exam depan. I'm not sure why. Because most of the things, not most, but many of the things is what you have learned before, right? But it can be due to many different reasons, right? Now, so normally I do expect there are repeaters in the class. Ini bukan nak kelaskan manusia apa, but for anyone who repeating the subject, my suggestion is you should know what happened to you last time lah, because there are students that like I shown before, generally they are okay, but just the issue of final exam, right? So if you are in that category and you want to be prepared for the final exam from the beginning, sebab you kata banyak chapter ni saya dah okay dah pun, cuma final exam tu lah, so boleh tak train benda tu, you can straight away mention that and we can try to accommodate how to help you there. But if memang sebelum tu you ambil carry mark hancur apa hancur, maknanya basically you have to, you punya problem tu throughout lah. So hopefully from the beginning you redesign ke, how you learn so that the same thing will not happen again lah. But I'm just saying here, especially if there are cases where student that actually, siapa yang repeat, you tahulah chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sometimes dia amat basic pada dia, yang dia kata buat apa saya nak ulang benda tu. So they want to straight away go into chapter 9 and 10 yang mana memang ada struggle sebelum ni. I'm open to that. Maknanya kalau lepas kelas ni pun, bukan lepas kelas ni, maknanya next class you straight away want to, but mention to me lah, kalau lepas kelas ke apa, just mention this is my situation, I need help there, so we will design for you your experience to help you there lah, right? So this is just special for those students, because we want to help you as best as you can in what you need help with lah. Now, this subject, even though it is engineering subject and mechanical subject, it applies, meaning in solving problem, because in most of our exam question, it is calculation question. It's not soalan konsep, bukan bukan ayat-ayat karangan, it's actually calculation. Hence, it's rely on maths a lot. And hopefully by now, from your own experience from high school, etc., you know that subject where mathematics is the main component requires a lot of exercise, because even if you understand the concept, but bila datang soalan dengan nombor-nombor tu you tak tahu nak buat apa dengan all the numbers, etc., then the grade will be based on that, right? Walaupun saya sebenarnya faham kalau nak terang kat orang apa yang berlaku, tapi because the question is not like that, the question is you have to compute something, right? So it does require a significant number of exercises. Number one is to be able to, whenever you have the question, to be able to solve. Number two, siapa yang repeat mungkin tahu, the exam will not test only how you are able to solve a problem, but also whether you can solve the problem within the given time. Faham ke? Maknanya kadang-kadang time tu dia bagi banyak tu je, soalan ada banyak. So some students if given more time they can solve, but sebab dia tak the lack of practice, hence they are so slow in calculating, right? So that's where exercises is part of the equation. Okay. For now, for today, I didn't prepare any quiz. But before, something happened during this period where I'm not that prepared for this class. But if I'm well prepared, normally I already prepare some quiz today. Not for quiz to give you marks, but to make you realise kalau rupanya, alamak, aku punya sin cosine semua dah hancur, dah lupa, then you know you need to revise before next class lah. But for now, unfortunately benda tu tak ada. But please do try please do refresh lah on the trigonometry especially, because we will straight away apply it in the next class. Right. Now, okay, ni slide lama so kita dah tak ada Google Meet because in the pandemic. But you have access to iTaklim, I believe, and also Google Classroom, and also WhatsApp, right? Okay. Any question before we move on to something else? According to the schedule, we should cover chapter 1 as well today, right? Yeah, chapter 1 should be covered today as well. Chapter 1 is just refreshing of of some of the concept. There's no calculation yet in chapter 1. Any questions so far? Semua macam okay ke ni? Semua senyap. Alright, so we'll cover chapter 1 straight away. Yeah. Where's my slide? Lecture slide. Alright, Bismillah. Now, chapter 1, okay, chapter 1 is just to introduce what exactly is the subject, and what will you be dealing with, and some of the things about numbers. So do not worry that much about this chapter, but it's good to understand, right? Mechanics, unit, numerical calculation, and general procedure for analysis. So, okay, all of these are template slide from the publisher of the textbook. So, the textbook is by Pearson. Alright, the objective of this slide is for students to be able to explain what is mechanics and statics, to work with two type of units, rounding of numbers basically, and apply problem solving strategies. Alright, so what is mechanics? Now all of you are from either mechanical automotive or aerospace program, right? Anyone from the others, especially those who are, I think normally for new students it's only from those two, because okay, previously this subject is taught to all program in Kuliah of Engineering until recently when they decided for non-mechanical program, they want to do it separately because they say they don't need that much of statics, so they combine statics and dynamic into one course. Anyway, so we have mechanics statics and mechanics dynamics basically, if you see the subject that you need to take. So what is it? It is a study of what happened to a thing. The technical name is body when force applied to it. Right? So simply what we will be learning is just that, meaning any particular body, so for example this thing or whatever, what will happen if I have applied certain force? So that's the idea, right? Of course, in reality, what we'll be studying is not just simply one force like this lah. There will be friction there will be etc, etc, etc. But the idea is as such, and the body can be of various size, various dimensions, etc. Now, under mechanics, if you split into three categories, there's one that deals with, on the left, rigid body. Rigid is something like this. Rigid, the shape is constant. And then there's deformable body. I'm not sure if you can see the cushion here, but the shape can deform. And then on the right, there's fluids. So the easiest one is on the left. The most difficult normally is on the right, because when it's rigid, then the shape is just constant like that, so it's easier to deal with. Deformable body will be more complex when the shape itself is changing. Fluid, when it flows, etc., then that is most complex between all of this, right? Of course, for those who will, because you are mechanical, right? So in automotive, you will deal with like fuel, etc. in the pipeline, so that's there. Aerospace even more so lah. The combustion, the fuel, etc. is there, right? So it start on the left, and you will go to cover until the whole thing, inshallah. And under rigid body, there's statics and dynamics. So in the course, you will have statics in this semester and dynamics in next semester lah. So make sure it's static semester ni. Next semester dynamic, bukan masih repeat static dan static lagi, hopefully, insyaAllah. Alright, of course, under fluid there are incompressible and compressible. That's even so when the time comes, the lecturer that teach fluid will teach you that. In terms of unit of measurement, I believe all of you are aware of this. We have these fundamental physical quantities: the length, mass, time, and force. And then it is related by that Newton's second law, right? F equal to m times A. When did you learn this? Is it CFS or is it high school? Sekolah menengah. So even at school you're already familiar with this, right? Now, for us, okay, I hope you know that in this world there are two major different unit system that is being used. One is SI unit, where we have kilogram, Newton, meter, etc. Right? But if you watch many movies from the US, you will hear like inches, pound, etc. Right? So feet. So those are a different system, right? There's a way to convert, but the SI is much easier, because when we say kilo, etc., it's just multiplied by 1000, etc. Right? Do you know how to calculate between inch and feet? Berapa dia darab berapa? Tak tahu kan? So anyway, alright, so these are the unit. For length, it's meter. For time, it's second. For mass, it's kilogram. And for force, it's Newton. Of course, when we know F equal to ma, so we know Newton equal to kilogram times meter divided by second square. This okay, there's no such thing as plural. Macam it's not like 1 kilogram, 5 kilograms. Dia bukan English subject macam tu. And then, okay, by now you should already know this as well, right? When we have two unit that is multiplied together, we have to have a dot there. For example, m dot s. so it is meter second. If you do not put the dot, we will understand it as millisecond, right? If you just write ms. So make sure you understand this, because when you write something, it should convey the correct meaning, right? Because many students before, when they notice that they lose a lot of marks due to the unit, kadang-kadang sebab tak letak dot tu lah. If they just write ms, so I will write it as a millisecond, so hilang lah markah kat situ, contohnya. Dia tu apa pasal kan, dot je pun. Saya kata apa pasal markah je pun kan. So gitulah. So it carries the meaning, so you have to understand that it should carry the correct meaning. Alright, so if you have centimeter times centimeter, it becomes centimeter square. Compound prefix should not be used. So there's no such thing as, for example, apa millikilometer. Apa hal pula tu kan? So dia tak boleh compound begitu kan? Right, okay. For this, centimeter square, meter square. Please do not make a mistake of in conversion. Kena bagi contoh ke? Okay, 1 meter is 1000 millimeter, correct? 1 meter, 1000 millimeter, right? 1 meter square is how many millimeter square? Faham soalan tak? 1 meter, saya nak tulis jauh lah. 1 meter equal to 1000 millimeter, right? 1 meter square is how many millimeter square? Is it 1000? Okay ke tak ni? It should be 1000 square, right? Faham? Because 1 meter, 1000 millimeter. 1 meter square is actually 1 meter times 1 meter, right? Should be 1000 millimeter times 1000 millimeter. It should be 1,000,000 millimeter square, right? So now, I'm just mentioning this because many of the students in the final exam, when they change between meter square to millimeter square, they just times 1000, and then unfortunately markah dia hilang free gitu je. So make sure when you change unit, you understand what's going on. Okay, I believe you know all of this, right? Giga, mega, kilo, milli, micro, nano. Of course, in statics, in static subject, we rarely deal with the micro, nano, because we always deal with object of this kind of size. So we tend to have a upper prefix there. Okay. When you do equation sign, okay, when you write on paper something equal to something, it should actually equal. It should actually be equal. Faham ke kau tu? Because sometimes some students, the way they write, when we see on this left side, it will becomes one unit, but when you go on the right side, it becomes a different unit. So then the equal sign is wrong. Okay, this is just conceptual. Use an appropriate number of significant figure. 3 for answer, at least 4 for intermediate calculation. At least meaning 4 or more, right? Now, anyone know why? Okay, there's two things there. Do you know why in the calculation we want 4 or more significant figure? Do you understand significant figure? Understand that? Why do we want many significant figure in calculation? What is the problem if you round off to become just 2 or 3 significant figure in the calculation? Final answer? Because you will introduce a lot of error in the calculation, and the final answer will be kind of off. It can be kind of off. But here, why do you want, kat sini disebut appropriate. Appropriate meaning that if the final answer is like, okay, let me give an example. If I ask you, all of you, each of you, to go back, and on Wednesday come back and meaning you go back, find a mesin timbang, weigh yourself, timbang diri sendiri. Lalu on Wednesday report back your mass, for example, berapa kilogram, right? How many kilogram? And then suddenly one student says, okay, I have dah timbang. It is 73.45216 kilogram. But they say like that. Is there any problem with that report? Why not appropriate? Gada-gada. This is more about engineering rather than calculation, because there's no such equipment that can give that kind of number. Any equipment that there's a set of number that it can give. Normally we have this long number because we use calculator, not actual equipment, right? So when we calculate, we get something number, but that kind of number is not real lah. It's not real from real perspective. So normally it's from that perspective. Now, if you give that kind of answer in the final exam, some lecturers are more stringent about that lah. I'm not that much on that. Okay, for me, the at least 4 significant number in calculation, normally I'm very rigid on that. Kalau you banyak round off in the calculation, normally you'll see your marks will drop off there lah. Sebab methodologically, you introduce a lot of error when you run off early on. On the final one, normally I'm quite lenient, but there are other lecturers I know before. Many students, when the final answer, for example, there's a long answer and then they do not write the final answer as 3 significant figure, normally dia pun hilang markah juga. So that one is relative to how the lecturer is dealing with that lah. So I'm just mentioning it now. But okay, another thing is, if you have the slide or if you have the textbook, this actually answer why the answer in the textbook, sometimes they change the unit at the end, because they want to have the 3 significant figure. For example apa I think ada slide lepas ni yang kamu jawab benda ni. Okay, how to round off number, I think you know, right? Kat mana dia punya tu Wait. Okay, let's cover this one. Okay, this is the concept that we will not ask you in the quiz or test lah. Maksudnya, apakah step pertama kedua. But this is more, it should become more of your how to say, how you program yourself solving problem. There will be 3 steps. The first step is interpret. Read carefully and determine what is given and what is to be found. Okay, some lecturer, they might also suggest that you actually write this down, right? When you have your question, given apa, what need to be calculated or found, apa, right? Ask if not clear. Okay, in the exam, please do this. Bila if you read something, it doesn't seem clear, do not agak-agak je lah. Maknanya, please raise your hand and ask to make sure you understand the question correctly. Jangan, because some student, because this happen during some final exam, towards the end the student ask, betul ke saya faham soalan ni? Is it correct? I understand this way? And then when we say, alamak silap tu, tapi masa dah nak habis, then maknanya make sure you actually understand the question correctly from the beginning. Do not gamble, especially in the exam. If necessary, make assumption and indicate them. Okay, this is about when a problem require an assumption to be solved. Ni bukan make assumption macam memang lecturer ni nak menyusahkan kita ke soalan ni, bukan assumption begitu. It's more of later in the, I think in what chapter? In chapter 8, most probably when this happen, the question will give a scenario, and to be able to solve, you will realize that there are two possibilities, for example. Contoh if I push this rostrum, right? There are two possibilities. One it is moving, one is actually tumble or topple down, right? For example. Now, for those two possibilities, the way you calculate will be different. So that's where you have to assume, we have to assume, let's assume this, and then you have to calculate, and then you have to check whether the assumption is correct, right? And if not, then you have to go back, then it means that is the other possibility. So that's the nature of some question where assumption will become part of the thing that you have to do. But inshallah, when we get there, we'll get there. Before this will only happen, or you will only be tested on assumptions in the final exam. In the midterm 1 and 2, I think the question will not be testing you yet of making assumption. Now, when you have understand what is the problem need to be solved, then plan. Think about the major steps that you will need to take, and think about alternative or creative solution and choose the best one. Right. In some of the problem when we want to solve, actually there are a lot of ways to solve and the answer will be the same. The difference is some of the way will have a short calculation, some of the way will be very long calculation, right? So it's good to know all the options, and then think which is the most strategic way before you actually execute. And then execute, carry out your steps, use appropriate diagram and equation, estimate your answer, avoid simple calculation mistake, reflect on, and then revise your work if necessary. Okay, so this is just the normal way of doing things lah, or expected way. So first understand the problem, which is interpret, and then plan how to solve this problem, or maybe we can use that one, maybe you can use this one. Choose the best one, and then execute. Then you actually execute your plan, right? On the reflection, now there are certain answer. When you get the answer, you should know already it is a mistake. Faham? For example, if I say this is a problem, we have a river, we have a raft, and we want to carry the elephant from here to there. For example, so with this raft, this design, calculate what is the maximum weight of elephant that we can carry, for example, right? And then you do the calculation, and then suddenly you say, the answer is 7 kilogram. Is there a problem? Is that? What's the problem? Elephant yang problem. Yeah, meaning it doesn't make sense, right? Normally when that happen, for example in your exam, right? That might hint that maybe some mistake happened, because there's no way that the answer is 7 kilogram where the elephant, ada ke elephant 7 kilogram? So you understand? So there are things yang macam ni. You understand the concept of center of gravity, right? For example, for everything you have the center of gravity. Kalau you follow F1 ke apa, dia nak center of gravity low apa semua kan, for several. Now, if you need to calculate center of gravity, normally you will imagine somewhere here, for example, right? When you calculate, suddenly it's here. You should know that ada mistake ni, because some student, the way they answer in the exam dengan confidentnya kan, sir, ni jawapan saya kan, that actually reflect bad on you. Faham? Maknanya lecturer pun kata awak ni tak layak ni lulus kan. Jawapan macam ni. Sebab tu kalau you tak sempat jawab, if you don't even have the time to revise, even if you notice, so I notice that this answer does not make sense, etc. At least it reflect that you understand the answer is ridiculous lah. Kalau jawapan you macam contohnya, it reflect that you confident, memang kat sini je, betul center of gravity kat sini, then lecturer tu amat rasa tidak bersalah untuk failkan you lah. Because you didn't seem to even understand what's going on. Right, so make sure you do not make those kind of mistake. Okay. Now, for a statics problem, Your calculations show the final answer as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.6 Newton. What should you write as your final answer? Okay, this relates to what we discussed earlier about three significant figure answer. So which one will it be? A, B, C, D or E? B, D, E. Lagi? A tak nak A? Okay, A doesn't match what we want in terms of three significant figure, right? B still many significant figure. C not enough pula D? Okay, D. E itu je silap lah kan, sebab dia ubah titik bulan. Alright, now basically it become 12.3 kilonewton. Now this explains why the change of unit, because you cannot remain in Newton and become three significant figure. You cannot change 1, 2, 3, 0, 0 Newton, right? That's wrong. So that's why normally in this just to explain, in that textbook sometimes kadang-kadang you see at the end tiba-tiba dia tukar unit. Asal tukar unit ni kan? Normally because they want to have three significant number, three significant figures. So, alright. Okay, this is just if you memorize. In the three-step approach to solve a problem solving called IPE, what does P stand for? Plan. Tu kalau nak tengok yang tidur tak tidur je lah. Alright. So that's the end of chapter 1, alhamdulillah. Alright. So okay. Any questions so far? Because we have covered, I have only just few slides left just to wrap up the class. But any questions so far? Ada? Alright. Let me see. Ke mana? Now, this is by apa ni? Siapa punya buat ni? Pun tak dapat baca. Okay. Dakwah and Training Bureau Engineers, blah blah. Okay. So because they asked the lecturers to actually they asked if this is done to at the beginning of the class. So we'll just go one. Hadis boleh nampak ke? Sekejap, mana mouse ni? Boleh nampak kan? Oops. Lama. Mak terlebih pula. Tak apalah. Okay. So in this hadith, so I'll just read the translation in English. Whoever takes a path to seek knowledge, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for him the path to heaven. There's no group gathered in the house among the house of God, reading the book of God, which is the Quran, and learning it from themselves, among themselves, but they will descend upon them sakinah, covered with mercy and sheltered by angel, and God subhanahu wa ta'ala will mention them to the angels who are by his side. Alright, so this is one of the hadiths. I think they put this hadith here to relate about the majlis of seeking knowledge. Alright, I think many of us have heard of this hadith before, right? So one thing, as a reminder for this session and all the sessions, in not only in this class but other classes as well, ikhlas, make your niat to be ikhlas, inshallah. Hopefully all the hours and minutes spent will be rewarded, inshallah. That's number one. Number two, I'm not sure. Okay, how many of you think you are familiar with this hadith? Pernah dengar ke this is the first time? First time. Okay. If I ask the question here, okay, because what is the correlation? Because it is quite interesting. Whoever take a path of to seek knowledge, fihi ilman, right? To seek ilm, to seek knowledge. And then suddenly there's no group gathered in the house among the house of God reading the book of God, reading the Quran. I'm not sure if you have noticed this before, but if you go to any hadith or many hadiths that mention about knowledge, ilm, always the logical, even the Sahabah always think about the Quran, not about other things. How many of you have that logic? Because normally when we talk about knowledge, we'll talk about books, etc. Right? So that's number one, which is, to me, it is important to note that if you read hadith like this, the primary correlation is always that first. So my humble advice to you is that on top of your time that is your spent on your academic classes, make sure you also have time spent or allocation to be within the groups that also discuss and try to understand the Quran. Why? Because, okay, how many of you are familiar with Abu Jahal? Siapa yang familiar Abu Jahal? Bukan tanya kenal tak kenal, maknanya familiar dengan karakter tu, Abu Jahal. Okay, is that his real name? No, right? Because like Abu Hurairah, Abu Lahab, etc. Those are like titles for them, right? Like even Rasul SAW, Nabi Muhammad SAW have the title of Al-Amin. So people call other people based on their characteristic. So Muhammad SAW Al-Amin because they know this is amanah, the most amanah of people, right? Now, so Abu Jahal, his name is something, but he is being called Abu Jahal, right? Is that what the society call him? Faham? For example, if you know Abu Hurairah, have you heard of Abu Hurairah before? What's the meaning of Hurairah? Kucing. Why is he being called bapa kucing ataupun ya, mak kucing, mat kucing ataupun yalah. Tak tahu nak relate what's our equivalent Abu Hurairah kan. Because he is known as someone who really takes care of cat. Right? Even sometimes he protect the cat in his coat, etc. Right? So people know him. In the society, people can just say, Abu Hurairah ataupun bapa kucing tu, they know who he is, right? So Al-Amin, Abu Hurairah, Abu Lahab, those are titles given to people, right? But Abu Jahal, is that a real title given to him? Logically, if you know his character, logik tak orang panggil dia Pak Jahil? Dia orang yang gagah, yang kuat, yang samsing, yang ganas kan? If you call him that, kena pancung je lah kan? Betul tak? What is his real title? Abu juga. Pernah dengar? Have you heard? His real title is Abu Al-Hakam. Abu Al-Hakam. Can you guess what that means? It's like Luqmanul Hakim, bijaksana. So he is memang in the society of Mekah at that time. Orang kata, siapa yang bijaksana ke sini? Oh, dia tu. Maknanya siapa yang genius ni? Scholar ke, profesor ke? Abu Al-Hakam, Abu Al-Hakam. However, when Islam comes, Islam does not recognize him as Abu Al-Hakam. We call him Abu Jahal. Even though in the society he is the professor. Boleh faham? So, the discussion is long, but in short it's like this. Kalau pun, even if the society says he is a dean's list, he is a professor, etc., we do not want that to become that person if Quran says or Allah says, no, they're still jahil. Faham? So that's where my humble advice is, alongside with our academics, achievement, excellence, etc., make sure we also understand really the Quran, so that in the eyes of human, yes, kita macam itulah Abdul Hakam tu, Professor, Deansley Scholar dan sebagainya. But in the eyes of Allah, we also is that Abdul Hakam juga, bukan na'udzubillah Abu Jahal. So that is Abu Jahal is very relatable for us lah sebenarnya, siapa-siapa yang belajar tinggi, because dia level itu. Abu Jahal adalah orang yang level tinggi, maknanya yang terkenal kebijaksanaan dia, tapi dari segi Islam, from Islam perspektif, jahil itu, dia tak faham apa yang Allah nak sampaikan. So make sure we are not like that, na'udzubillah min zalik. Now so as a closing remark, mana mouse ni tak keluar. Just as a closing remark, life is a one-time offer. Use it wisely. Make sure do not. When you normally when we first experience life in the university life, for many of us, suddenly we feel the first time of kebebasan. Freedom. Kalau yang SBP lagi kan, sebelum ni hidup sentiasa terkongkong. Alhamdulillah. And we will also see a lot of new opportunity. Kalau zaman saya dulu, in my time then, that's the starting age of internet. Now it's even a different world lah. And many of us, I still remember, many of us go from straight A student in SPM to become totally different in IPT, because suddenly you are free totally to play game from Isya until Subuh, for example, right? So many of the students, you will notice, or I'm not sure even if you are already like this, will fall to this, but please make sure to remember that once every second or every hour or every day that we have been given pass, it will never come back again. So make sure you use it wisely. And second, really think about what do you really want in this life. What do you really want? Hopefully you have a very strong ambition to achieve something, so that will at least guide you, especially not to be affected by others. Sebab ramai orang yang biasanya bila kadang-kadang dia nak buat benda baik lah, tapi bila tengok orang lain enjoy je, macam dia terganggu. Dia macam takkanlah kan. So hopefully think about this seriously. Now one of my past student actually asked me this question. He asked in Malay lah, "Sir, saya datang kelas nak belajar statik, kenapa saya cerita akhirat ni kan? Mengganggu kehidupan saya ni kan?" My answer to him is like this. Now, I have the responsibility to give my best to make sure you understand the topic, statics and I'm doing that, insyaAllah, to best of my ability. I give the resources, I'm preparing the tutorial, etc. However, do you think, okay, think of it like this, if you end up in paradise, di syurga, kalau you berakhir di syurga, ada possibility tak di dalam syurga tu, macam aku tahulah syurga ni best, tapi aku mesti menyesal lah tak score A statics. Ada possibility tak? Do you understand? Is there any possibility of you in paradise, in all the joy and enjoyment dan sebagainya, but you still regret not getting an A in a subject, right? On the other hand, is there any possibility, not you lah, someone in hell, in Jahannam, in the fire, etc., thinking, I know this is painful, but at least we score. There's no such thing, right? So that's why normally I try to insert here and there some reminders, because it's not worth it just to excel in this life but end up not guided there, right? So that's influenced the approach that I have, generally speaking. Alright, So with that, okay, in terms of the textbook, this is basically the textbook, Engineering Mechanics Statics by Hibbeler. Now, here's the thing. If you ask me, is it best if you have the textbook? Normally it is best lah, because in the textbook there's two things. One is the explanation will help you to go step by step in the understanding concept. Second, there's a lot of questions that you can try there. Now, however, sebab this book is quite expensive, so some students ask, is it possible to go and understand the subject without having the book? It is still possible actually. Okay, in terms of the resources that I have given, the slides, the videos, etc., to just understand the concept and have enough exercises, not say enough, at least some exercises, it should cater for that. But for those who want to excel, normally the number of example that I give is not nearly enough. So that's the thing lah. So even if you cannot get this, if it's too expensive or something, please try to find because the questions inside the book there's a lot that you should try, because they will ask you different ways of question, right? In the example, okay, now when I say about this, just want to remind. Now, when we give any example, do not think that the question will only be in the form of that example. Faham? Because in the exam, normally we try to find ways to ask in a different angle. So if you only familiar with the question when they ask from A to B, suddenly in the exam it asks from B to A. I noticed some students suddenly they got stuck because they tak pernah try soalan bila direction dia berbeza, but when the direction of the question is different. So if you have the textbook, normally you have enough of exercises that test you in different way. But if you do not have this one, so make sure to find some way lah to get access to some of the questions, because if you just cover what we cover in the class, is normally not enough to prepare for all possibilities. So that's just my general advice. Alright, so that's it for today. Any final question before we end the class? Yeah, okay, all the passing marks is 50%. So meaning when we say you should pass the final exam as well, so meaning it's 50% of that full final exam marks. So yeah. So in terms of, because for our distribution, 50% of the total marks is from final exam, 50% of carry marks. So passing in the final exam is 50% of the 100 or 25 out of the 50 lah. Any other question? Alright, so see you again next class on Wednesday, inshallah. Cover the lecture video before coming to class. Any question? Now, okay, final advice, when you cover the lecture video, cover it as you cover lecture lah. Bukan tengok sampai baring dan separuh lelap meaning take notes lah, take notes macam you dengar lecture, so that anything that you do not understand or you want to ask, you already have the question. So at the beginning of the class, you can straight away ask your question before you go to something else, right? So that's the advice, and the first quiz will be on Wednesday, inshallah. With that, thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.